For the last 200,000 years, groups of men have banded together as a means of survival and for the purpose of moving civilization forward. Men built great cities, advanced modern technology, and created economic systems that still prevail today. Unfortunately, those advancements in economic stability have created widespread levels of comfort that even the most wealthy kings in history didn't enjoy. With no great purpose or mission, most men today have accepted this comfort and in turn have become soft, weak, feminized versions of their past ancestors. These men are content with spending their days at jobs they dislike, spending time with people they can hardly tolerate, and the most fulfilling thing in their lives is watching their favorite sports teams or getting lost in their favorite video game. The men of the Unplugged Brotherhood demand more from themselves and, more importantly, from each other. Through mentally and physically challenging in-person retreats and events, these men have discovered that growth only happens when you are willing to show up, force yourself out of your comfort zone, and above all, do the work. Don't waste another day squandering your potential to be the man you were meant to be. Reject comfort, let go of people that are holding you back, and seize the opportunity to join a true brotherhood that will challenge you to become the best version of yourself.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to a TUA episode. It's been a few weeks. Had some time off, and I got something fun and interesting for you today. Some medical studies, scientific studies, as you know, as they happen to accumulate over the years on the association between tattoos and women. So we're at TUA number 175. Appreciate you guys being here. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the membership if you guys want to jump in the chat and chop it up and stuff like that. It's set it to the lowest level. It's like 99 cents a month, but YouTube keeps telling me to mention the membership tier, so hit it and support the content. I did cover this is a red flag in my first book, The Unplugged Alpha, which you want the second edition if you're going to get this copy. There's another volume coming out this fall, which basically completes it all. So you'll be able to grab that just before Christmas, around November. If you come to my forum in October, you'll get a signed copy there from me. So look forward to seeing the guys that have already gotten a ticket on that one. But I talked about the red flags, and one of them was tattoos. And that was based very strongly on talking to a lot of guys on consults, my own anecdotal evidence, and a lot of reading. And I mean, I knew I was 100% right on it. I'm like, the whole notion of putting bumper stickers all over an exotic car is just absurd to me. Why would you ruin an object of beauty with something as nonsensical as that? I believe it's more of a masculine pursuit and has been for a long time, with some very rare exceptions from cultural tribes and stuff like that. But you see a lot of gals today with like sleeve tattoos, dozens upon dozens of them. It falls into the category, I believe, of bodily mutilation. Another really interesting thing that came up after I published the second edition is I was talking to a buddy of mine, before I get into these studies and pop them up on the screen for you, who's a medical doctor. He runs ER clinics, and he noticed the vast majority of the women that were coming in for STD testing were heavily tattooed. There was a very strong correlation between promiscuity and heavy tattooing. So there's that as well, which has also revealed itself, which you won't see in studies because it's pretty hard to study that sort of stuff. Anyway, let's get right into this. I've dropped the call-in link. We'll do some Q&A if there's time. We'll probably do 60 to 90 minutes today. That's pinned at the top of YouTube, and I'll drop it in live chat everywhere else in a little bit. But let me just minimize this over here and put that up over here. So what I do now, rather than reading studies, which thanks, Muhammad, appreciate that. It's something that you should pass around. Yeah, please do. What I'll normally do in the past, before the advent of good AI, was basically read studies with a highlighter. Right? I still have a folder over there that's got a tray filled with printed studies, and some of them are like dozens upon dozens of pages long. I highlight everything and I make some notes and I do a video, and I've done lots of these now. But this one, I just basically give Grok a prompt, and I'll show you what I got over here. I'll just pop it up on the screen, and then we'll sort of get into it. Boom, boom, boom. That's it over here. So if you just prompt Grok to summarize things, it's actually very, very good. I found prompting it to give you the link, like to give it the link, is not the way to go, because it doesn't always follow the link. Sometimes it goes to other pages on the site, which is bizarre. But if you prompt it with summarize the study on the website, and then name the website, which is the National Library of Medicine, and then you put titled : and then you put the title of the study. And I had these brought to my attention last week. Somebody sent me all of these studies like itemized. So, gratitude to those guys out there that are sending me links to TikToks and studies and social media and videos to sort of comment on for stuff like this, because it's helpful. I mean, it helps me put out more content and comment on social issues that you want to hear a useful opinion on, if I can put it that way, rather than the woke nonsensical one. So thanks for being here. Anyway, so this first one's titled, "Do Young Women with Tattoos Have Lower Self-Esteem and Body Image Than Their Peers Without? Nonverbal Repertory Grid Technique Approach." I don't know what that means, but we have a summary here following it. I don't know if you guys can read this. Is this even legible on your screen? You probably need to be on a console on a big screen, but I'll read it to you anyway. So this is a 2019 study. National Library of Medicine investigates the relationship between tattoo, self-esteem, body image in young women between the ages of 18 and 35. So we cap this at 35. This is not, by the way, guys, unique to women. Let me just turn this a little bit. Under or in younger age groups. I mean, I see lots of women, 40s, 50s, even 60s, with relatively new tattoos. I mean, you see them at the gym a lot because, they're not wearing much, and it's all over their body, back, shoulder, sleeves, stuff like that. But this one limited it to 35. It compared 60 women with tattoos to 60 without, focusing on self-esteem and body image perception. So let's see what we got on this one. So self-esteem, women with tattoos showed significantly lower self-esteem compared to those without. Isn't that interesting, as indicated by larger gaps between the present and ideal self-concepts? So chicks with the tattoos have lower self-esteem than those without. I wonder why that is. Let's postulate. Let's take some guesses. Probably, I mean, if you're going to sit in a chair for hours, dozens of hours in some cases, maybe hundreds of hours, depending on the amount of work that's required to get done. So another guy can stick a needle in your body over and over again and leave a little stamp, design, art, whatever it is that you want to call it. You're probably seeking something, you're probably looking for some approval, for a head nod, so most people don't do things unless there's some kind of benefit to it, if you know what I'm saying. So makes a lot of sense. Anyway, body image, it says that there was no significant differences in body image between the two groups. Okay, cool. So it boiled down to self-esteem so far. Construct relationships. Tattooed women displayed stronger associations between the construct of ideal body, ideal self, and tattooed women's status, suggesting that tattoos may be linked to their perception of self and body. I mean, of course, that makes absolute sense, because they're plastering them all over their body. Correlation. In women with tattoos, self-esteem and body image were correlated. No such correlation was observed in women without tattoos. Well, isn't that interesting? Self-esteem and body image were tied together with tatted up checks. Okay. We could skip methodology, limitations. Let's just go to the conclusion on this one. So the study suggests that young women with tattoos may have lower self-esteem than their non-tattooed peers with tattoos, potentially linked to efforts to align their real body and ideal body images. However, body image itself did not differ significantly between the groups. So it ties into esteem, not image. Very interesting. Okay, so let's go to the next study. So the next one that I had Grok summarize for me here is titled Body Modifications and Sexual Health, Impact of Tattoos, Body Piercings, and Aesthetic Genital Plastic Surgery on the Sexual Health of Women and Men. Okay, now we're getting into piercings as well. So impact of tattoos and body piercings and aesthetic genital plastic surgery. I'm assuming that's tightening up the meat flaps. I guess is the way they call it surgery. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. You guys let me know in the comments. Anyway, so this one was published in 2017, body modifications, key findings. So on tattoos and piercings. So these modifications, particularly genital piercings, positively influence sexual satisfaction and perceived sexual attractiveness in both men and women. So there's a positive aspect to genital piercings, apparently. So when you get to chicks with pierced clits and the like, apparently, according to the study anyway, there's a positive perceived sexual attractiveness in both the men and women. So the women feel hotter, and the men that they're with are, I guess, more attracted to these women with genital piercings. They enhance feelings of sexual appeal and are controversially associated with high-risk sexual... Oh, there you go. So it's associated with high-risk sexual behaviors, with mixed evidence on this link. But there's an association with high-risk sexual behavior. So basically, what's a high-risk sexual behavior? I don't know. Behind the dumpster with no protection at the club, probably, would be an example of that. So not not desirable, if we can put it that way. While they might associate higher levels of quote unquote satisfaction, it's not something that I think that you would want to parade around after she finds you when she's had her fun, sort of thing, if you know what I mean. And then the next point here in the key findings is aesthetic genital plastic surgery. The study highlights growing interest in these procedures, which significantly impacts female genital self-perception and behavior, sexual behavior specifically, often improving confidence and sexual experience. So they're basically saying that genital plastic surgery, which is I'm assuming tightening up the meat flaps, is improving their confidence and experience. Okay, fine, whatever. Psychological impact: body modifications are seen as invasive interventions resulting in semi-permanent or permanent changes to the body, influencing psychological aspects of sexual health, such as self-esteem and body image. Let's go to the conclusion. So tattoos, body piercings, and aesthetic genital plastic surgery can positively affect sexual satisfaction and attractiveness, but have a complex and inconclusive relationship with risky sexual behavior. I didn't take the study results and the key findings as inconclusive. It seemed pretty conclusive that there's a higher association to risky, what do they call it? High-risk sexual behaviors. Okay, so complex, inclusive, it was risky sexual behaviors, which they stated earlier in the summary, which Grok stated earlier in the summary anyway, that there's an association with these procedures with higher risk sexual behaviors. Anyway, the study underscores the need for further research to better understand these dynamics and the psychological implications. I mean, I can tell you right now, like anybody that's piercing their clit or their dick or anything like that, I don't know. You guys do you, like people are going to do what they're going to do anyway, but just not ideal behavior, in my opinion, to mutilate that part of your body. Okay, so the next one here is summarize the study on the website, National Studies, titled Alexithymia in People with Tattoos. Now, I'm just going to copy and paste that because I didn't Google search that. So give me 1 second. I'm going to open up another tab because I have no idea what alexithymia means. Alexithymia means no words for emotion, is a personality trait characterized by difficulties in identifying, understanding, and describing one's own emotions, leading to disconnect from internal feelings and impacts of relationships. So no word. So interesting. So numbness, essentially. Okay. And the study titled Numbness, I'm just going to use the word numbness in people with tattoos. Alexithymia, new word you guys all learned today. Published 2024. So this is a more recent one. National Library website. Personal trait conducted in Poland. So this was in Poland. That's interesting. Study population, 403 participants, 200 individuals tatted, 2 or 3 non. Most participants had 1 tattoo, commonly located on forearms and palms, 29%, with plant motifs, 21%, and expressions of personality, 20%. What the hell is a plant motif? That's a tattoo of a plant? Is that what they're trying to say there? When in doubt, let's get it clarified. What's a plant motif? Decorative designs featuring flowers or other botanical elements. Okay, so this is like when you see chicks with like sleeve tattoos with flowers and stuff like that. Why don't they just say crazy bitches with sleeve tattoos of flowers? Plant motifs. Anyway, let's keep going. Tattoo type, non-verbal tattoos, images, symbols. Okay, so they're just breaking down the type, whatever. Methodology, okay. Study compared to, we already know that. Conclusions, okay. Tattooed individuals have a higher prevalence of alexithymia, which we're just going to translate into numbness, compared to non-tattooed individuals. So again, let's just copy and paste this back over my other open tab. I'm trying to make sure this fits in so that it reads right. Does this flow? Personality trait characterized by difficulty identifying, understanding, and expressing emotion. So yeah, numbness. I mean, that's basically the easiest way to define it. So tatted women have a higher degree of numbness. Interesting. Okay. Compared to non-tattooed individuals. Those with non-verbal tattoos are more likely to exhibit numbness than those with verbal tattoos. So depending on whether it's a flower or they write some shit down their arm, which you see a lot of, these days, or on their wrist or something like that. Potential link between tattoo type and emotional expressions. So nonverbal are more likely. Oh, that's interesting. So the ladies with the flower sleeve tats are more likely to exhibit numbness than those with the words that they tattoo on their arms and bodies and stuff like that. Okay. The study suggests that tattooed individuals, particularly those with nonverbal tattoos, may warrant clinical attention for alexithymia screening. Study suggests tattooed individuals, particularly those with picture tattoos on their body. So women with picture tattoos on their body may warrant clinical attention for numbness screening, essentially. So this is a personality disorder, the way that they're describing it. Wow. Samples limited to pollen, which may limit generalization. Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. So the next one we have over here in this stack of nonsense is a study titled The Association of Childhood Abuse. Okay, this is where things might get very interesting. And neglect with tattoos, piercings in the population, evidence from representative community survey. So there looks like they're asking questions. So the association of childhood abuse and neglect with tattoos. Well, let's see what they found out with tatted up gals with childhood neglect and abuse. Key findings. So prevalence among 1,060 participants aged 14 to 44. Why are 14-year-olds getting tattooed, man? If you're 14-year-olds getting tattooed, you failed as a parent. Approximately 40% had at least one tattoo or piercing. Is it that high now? 40%? Oh, man. I had a conversation with this guy. I had a coaching call yesterday for 4 hours. Long conversation with this dude. And anyway, we're covering a lot of stuff. And one of the things that he was telling me was that he had spent something like 10 grand for like a matching service. Try to find him a sane chick, because he had a lot of insanity going on in his life. So he was telling me about this strategy that he was adopting, and the look of shock on the interviewer's face when he started to ask my coaching client what his disqualifiers were, like, what the red flags are, what your no-go zone is, whatever it is that you want to call it. But, your red list, your red flag list. And, he said, I don't want a woman that smokes cigarettes or weed. I don't want a woman that has tattoos. And when he said basically 420 cigarettes and no tattoos, the guy was like, basically said, he dropped his pen and put his hands up in his area. It's like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm not going to find anybody for you if you're going to disqualify women like that. Basically saying everybody in his inventory, or a vast swath of his available dating prospects for this successful, wealthy guy in his 40s was tatted up hoes, right? Essentially. Anyway, so 40% of the participants had at least one tattoo or piercing, and 25% reported significant childhood abuse or neglect. Of those reporting abuse, 48% had tattoos or piercings, compared to 35% of those without. So 48% with reported childhood abuse or neglect versus 35 without. So there's clearly an association, not a huge or a significant one, but a significant enough. It's 13% higher in women with tattoos, correlated directly with childhood abuse or neglect. Isn't that interesting? they get neglected or abused as a child, and I guess that carries on into adulthood because they go and like just write shit all over their body, like their body's a sticker book. Anyway, so prevalence, and we're talking association with trauma next. Tattoos and piercings were more common among individuals reporting childhood abuse and neglect, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, emotional and physical neglect. That's some serious mess right there. The prevalence of body modifications increased with the severity of reported abuse or neglect. Well, there you have it. Clearly a strong correlation between tattoos and piercings. And like I said in my book, frequency and placement matters. The more there are, the worse it's going to be. And I think the more visible they are, the worse the neglect, sexual abuse, emotional, physical neglect, whatever it is on that list there is going to appear. So vetting against red flags seems to still be a wise choice. There's nothing I've read so far that says that, hey, Rich, you're wrong. Logistic regression models controlling for age, gender, education, income showed a positive association between the number of significant abuse, neglect experience, and having tattoos and or piercings. That's a pretty high ratio. Motivations. The study suggests body modifications may serve as a coping mechanism for processing adversity or expressing autonomy through specific motivations. Though specific motivations were not assessed. So they're saying in the study summary that these body modifications, tattoos or piercings, serve as a coping mechanism for dealing with their childhood trauma. Essentially, you have a shitty childhood, go to a tattoo artist and have them paint shit all over your body. That's essentially what's going on here. Representative 1060 Germans surveyed. Okay, we covered the methodology. Let's go to the conclusions here and see what we got. The study confirms a significant association between childhood abuse. So the study doesn't confirm an association. Let's be very clear and specific here. The study confirms a significant association between childhood abuse and neglect and the presence of tattoos and piercings, with prevalence increasing with trauma severity. So again, frequency and placement. So one tattoo hidden maybe in a bikini line or something like that, where it's just not visible, although not ideal, is better than, 2 sleeve tats all over the body, writing some shit all over here. And you know what I'm talking about. The butterfly in the back of the neck. It's like, the basic bitch sort of tattoo. So there's that. These findings suggest the body modifications may have psychological significance, potentially aiding in coping with adversity. The results advocate for involving tattoo piercing studios in trauma support campaigns. Wow, that's pretty significant. So they're basically saying that tattoo piercing studios should be involved in trauma support campaigns. Like, that's just where people go, essentially. So let's centralize some kind of support mechanisms in tattoo studios and piercing studios. So screening for trauma and mental health settings and using body modifications as a therapeutic conversion starter. Further research is needed to explore casualty and cultural variations. Wow. Well, there you have it. That's a pretty damning study. So that one's called the Association of Childhood Abuse and Neglect with Tattoos and Piercings. And there's what do they say? A strong correlation, a significant association between childhood abuse and neglect and tattoos. So you see a tatted up chick, she probably had a shitty childhood. It's basically what it boils down to. All right. Let me just grab the super chat real quick. Frankie, thanks for the help the other day. Looking forward to meet the community. Hey, man, glad that you got some value out of it. Appreciate the super chat. And, if you jumped into the community, we'll look forward to seeing you, man. I do Zoom calls every Wednesday morning, coffee with Coop, 7 a.m. It's for community only. Let me just drop the banner here in case you guys are newer to this stuff. You should definitely get in on it. You can start over here, entrepreneursandcars.com/community. All right. So this next one here is titled Think Before You Ink: Perception, Prevalence, and Correlates of Tattooing and Tattoo Regret in U.S. Adults. Here's what's interesting. So I covered this in a video, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'd gone over a study which looked at women and their responses to regret expressed based on short-term sexual strategies. So basically hookups, friends with benefits, hookups, one-night stands, what happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas. And in that study, they were basically taking a look at, does the regret that women express after the fact change their future behavior? And the result of that was astounding again. No, in fact, it doesn't have any bearing whatsoever on a reduction or a discouragement. Regret, when a woman says, oh, well, I regret hooking up with that guy, or I regret sleeping with that guy, or I regret, cheating or whatever. Regret in women doesn't change the behavior, apparently, according to the study, which is something that shouldn't be surprising to a good number of people. Some people might be shocked, but it is what it is. Expressing regret does not mean that there'll be a change in behavior. In fact, what they noticed was that there was an increase in the behavior. So even though they regretted doing what they had done, they just did more of it. So let's see what this regret study on tattooing, excuse me, says about the chicks. Prevalence of 1,285 respondents, mean age of 36.8 years, half were female. 25.4% had at least one tattoo. Among tattooed individuals, 19.7% reported regret. So how many had tattoos? 25. So almost all of them. So what is that? 19.7 divided by 24.5. So what they're saying is 80.4% expressed regret for their tattoos. Tattooed individuals more likely to be younger, male, less educated, non-heterosexual, and have lower income. So again, this is a 50-50 study. It's men and women. Tattoo regret was more common amongst women. Hispanic individuals, those with lower income, probably because it's a waste of money putting stickers all over your body that are permanent, and those with visible tattoos. Okay, that makes sense. Because you get judged based on it. Like, I've not hired people because they had a neck tattoo. I've interviewed people when I was working in the corporate world, and they show up in the interview with a neck tattoo, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want this guy or gal working in my office. It's just how things go. There's a stigma that's attached to it. Public perception. So non-tattooed respondents viewed tattoos as less acceptable in professional settings, healthcare, education, compared to tattooed respondents. Of course, birds of a feather flock together, right? Common negative perceptions included tattoo signaling impulsivity or unprofessionalism. I would agree with that. It's unprofessional to show up to a professional environment with a neck tattoo, or you bring a date to a networking event and she's wearing a dress with an exposed back and her entire back's covered in ink or some shit like that. Just not ideal. It's not professional. It's not classy. Certainly in my estimation, suggests a lack of couth, if you can put it that way. So yeah, there's that. Tattoo characteristics and regret. Regret was associated with tattoos obtained at younger ages, visible tattoos, and those with personal significance, names, or dates. If you've got the name of a guy tattooed on your body, or maybe his birthday on your body, then I could see that you're not with anymore. Reasons for regret included dissatisfaction with appearance, loss of meaning, or social stigma. That makes sense. I remember when I was a teenager. So here's a story for you. The way back machine. Maybe not a teenager. I think I was maybe about 19 or 20 at the time. And I was a big car guy, always been a big car guy, but I was a Chevy guy at the time. And my friends, a lot of them had Fords, Mustangs, stuff like that. And we used to joke back and forth. I'd be like the guy that'd be like, you got a Ford, fucked on race day, sort of thing. Found on road dead. You'd make jokes about the acronym. And I had an IROC or something like that. And, my friends would be like, oh, Italian retard out cruising, or I reek of cologne, or something like that. So you'd have fun with one another. And one of the taglines for Chevy at that time was, I think, the heartbeat of America, if I'm not mistaken. And I came very close to getting a tattoo on my arm saying the heartbeat of America on it. Could you imagine me sitting here today at my age doing podcasts in a t-shirt with a heartbeat of America tattoo from a car manufacturer, a domestic North American car manufacturer that's all bled out looking like dog shit? Thank God I didn't make that stupid choice, right? Anyway, reasons for regret included dissatisfaction, loss of meaning, or social stigma, mental health and behavior. Tattooed individuals reported higher rates of substance abuse, alcohol and weed, and mental health issues, depression and anxiety. That's interesting. So this is self-reporting. So people with tattoos are self-reporting that they've got addictive personalities to vices like alcohol or weed, or sorry, not or, but and mental health issues like depression and anxiety. Turns out putting ink all over your body doesn't solve your problems, does it? Those with tattoo regret reporting higher psychological distress compared to those without regret. Those with tattoo regret reported higher psychological distress, I see, than those without. Okay. Well, there you go. Regret is certainly tied into a lot of mental issues now when it comes to tattooing. And they're hard to get off. I mean, I've seen some people try to remove them, and you could spend thousands of dollars getting them put on and twice that amount getting laser treatments over and over again. From what I understand, they're quite painful, getting these laser treatments over and over again to try to remove them from your body. I think it, if I think about my own situation with that Heartbeat of America tattoo, I think it shows a lack of impulse control. I'm trying to think back in my head what was going through my head at that time when I thought about getting that Heartbeat of America tattoo. And it was really just to maybe showcase or honor or solidify my commitment to the brand, if I can put it that way. And I don't remember what reasoning that I used for it, but obviously it's very permanent. It's, for the most part, very permanent, with exceptions where you can take it off or you can laser it off. But it's certainly it's a lifelong commitment for most people, and they don't look better over time. They look worse over time. And your commitment or your your association with that time in your life changes as you get older. I think if anything, I was thinking in my head, because I remember seeing my cousin's tattoos, because I've got some cousins in England, and one of them is a lorry truck driver, and he's got not a sleeve, but just like random 3 or 4 tattoos on his arm, and they're just faded out and they look like shit and you can't read them and they have no meaning. And I just remember thinking to myself, yeah, it's just going to look bad over time. So that would be a dumb choice. And I just, never did it based on that. Public perceptions tattoos analysis. Descriptive statistics, chi-square tests, and logistic regression models were used to identify correlations, tattoo and regret, adjusting for age, gender, and income, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's go to conclusions over here on this one. Approximately 1 in 4 U.S. adults has a tattoo. I think it's higher than that. It's got to be at least a third, maybe 50%. It's got to be higher than that. That's just not right. With 1 in 5 tattooed individuals experiencing regret. Well, why is it 1 in 5 in the conclusion, but above it was 19 out of 25%? So, Grok, you got to get your shit together. You're not making any sense. Before it was 80.4%. Now you're saying it's 1 in 5 individuals experiencing regret. So it's one or the other. It seems, my guess is that it's probably higher. It's probably closer to 80%. Tattooed prevalence is higher among younger, less educated, non-heterosexual individuals. Huh. That's interesting. So younger, lower education, not necessarily lower IQ, although there could be a correlation, but less educated and bisexual individuals or gay individuals. That's interesting. You know what? It's actually funny. I think that most bi chicks, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, most bi chicks that I've met have had tattoos. Yeah, definitely. Non-heterosexual, while regret is linked to visibility, personal significance, and demographic factors like gender and ethnicity. Negative public perceptions persist, particularly in professional contexts, and tattooed individuals, especially those with regret, report higher psychological distress and substance abuse. So, are you guys keeping a running list here? We've got substance abuse issues correlated to it, childhood trauma and neglect, including sexual abuse. What else was there? Bisexuality, homosexuality seems to be highly correlated with it as well. Study highlights the need for education, tattoo decisions making, and support for those experiencing regret, as well as further research in cultural and psychological factors. All right, we got another one over here. Let me just grab the super chat over here. Elias Christopher, was FWB with a 36-year-old. She rationed intimacy and made excuses. I ended it. Okay. She emailed once, no follow-up in 3 weeks. I'm 31. Should I reply at all or just walk away for good? Focus on self-improvement in the gym. She rationed intimacy and made excuses, so I ended it. I mean, if you're FWB and the whole point of that is just intimacy, that's it. There's nothing beyond that. How are you friends with benefits if there's no benefits and you're just friends essentially? So if you're okay with just being friends, and carry on. If you want the B part of the FWB, then you clearly need to walk away and have some dignity for yourself. Dignity is a weird thing with guys. Like I was just on Twitter before I turned on this stream, and I saw that this OnlyFans thought, what's her name? Sophia Rain pulled in $83 million last year from simps, essentially, making donations or subscriptions to her. Man, what a business model. She's getting paid fat stacks of cash monthly. I mean, what does that work out to monthly? 83 divided by 12. $6.9 million a month. Who the fuck makes $6.9 million a month showing their butthole on a private platform like that? But she does. And simps pay for all of this. It's just bonkers to me that this even exists today. But anyway, is what it is. Let's keep going. So this next one is a borderline personality symptoms and body modification and emotional regulation study as it correlates with tattoos. This is 2024 study between BPD, body modifications, tattoos and piercings, and emotional regulation in a non-clinical sample of young adults. So 251 participants, 18 to 25. Most were female, 66%. 44% of them had at least one tattoo or piercing. Higher BPD symptom severity was significantly, not associated, but significantly associated with a greater likelihood of having body modifications. Well, color me shocked. I mean, I've been saying this shit for years. I mean, I knew it through observation. Now you've got the scientific research backing that up. So anytime somebody comes at me now, how do you know this is true? Well, you can go read these 7 fucking studies if you don't like my anecdotal evidence and the conversations that I've had with thousands of guys and conversations around that. So there you go. Emotional regulation. Individuals with body modifications reported poor emotional regulation as measured by the difficulties in emotion regulation scale. Wow. They have a scale called the difficulties in emotional regulation scale, the DERS scale. Specifically, they showed higher scores in emotional non-acceptance and difficulties in impulse control. I mean, shocking. Impulse control is correlated with getting loads of tattoos. I mean, yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. BPD symptoms and body modifications. Participants with higher borderline personality disorder assessed via the personality assessment inventory borderline feature scale. So scientific medical scale, whatever, were more likely to have multiple tattoos or piercings. So those that are diagnosed with BPD symptoms are more likely to have multiple tattoos or piercings, particularly those with impulsive or self-harming tendencies. Well, tattoos and piercings are self-harming. You like to mutilate your body. I mean, you sit in a chair while a man with a fucking ink pen is constantly penetrating your body over and over again, or punching holes all the way up your ear, your nipples, or wherever else in your body you're going to put these damn things. I mean, it's why they're freaks in the sheets, I guess, right? Piercings, impulse, harmony. Okay, body modifications were often linked to self-expression, identity, or coping with emotional distress, suggesting a potential role in emotional regulation in individuals with BPD. Poor emotional regulation partially mediated the relationship between BPD symptoms and body modifications. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, every body of this study is saying the same thing. You have tattoos, you got BPD, or you have BPD. If you have BPD, you're going to get tattoos. Analysis, limitations. Let's go to the conclusion here. Studies suggest that body modifications are more prevalent among young adults with higher BPD symptoms. I mean, that would make sense. I mean, if you're 40 and or 50 and you're diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, you've already regulated yourself, you've figured out a way to regulate yourself, you don't have tattoos, why are you going to run off and get them? Although some might. But it makes sense that at a young age with higher BPD symptoms, as it states here, that they're going to get them done then. They're going to get ink then, potentially serving as a form of self-expression or emotional regulation. Poor emotional regulation partially explains a link between BPD symptoms and body modifications. These findings highlight the psychological significance of tattoos and piercings in non-clinical populations, suggest the clinicians consider body modification as a potential indicator of emotional dysregulation or BPD traits. So they're basically saying in this medical study summary that clinicians should consider body modifications as a strong indicator of emotional dysregulation or BPD traits. Further research is needed on this topic. All right. Clearly. Well, I hope they study it more. Not like you need to. It's just like, I mean, I've already told you guys for fucking years. She shows up with tattoos. She's got problems, man. There's baggage there. All right. This next one is, I think this might be the last one. Yeah. And we'll take some call-ins. If there's time for call-ins, I think we got time for call-ins. Yeah. Yeah, we can do a few. I'll drop the call-in link over here. You guys can queue up if you have anything you want to ask me. Invite, copy. And I'll drop this in all chat. Call in and ask a Q. That's just a call-in link. You can leave your camera off. It's basically like a phone call. It works perfectly fine. Okay, so this next one is herpes association with tattoos. Activation of herpes simplex infection after tattoo. Okay. Is that the STD version? Herpes simplex. Sorry, I'm just going to Google it real quick on another tab just to see if that's the STD version. Is herpes simplex infection a STD? Yes, it is. Okay, so that can be an STD. Because they have that lip version too, right? Study activation herpes simplex after tattoo, herpes simplex virus reactivation following cosmetic tattooing, and discusses potential. Okay. Oh, this is a case description. A 46-year-old woman employed in the medical sector developing herpes simplex in the labial area 2 days after receiving a cosmetic lip tattoo to outline her lips. Lips or lips? Doesn't say. But she got, oh, hang on a second. Herpes in the labial area 2 days after receiving a cosmetic lip tattoo to outline. I think that's like the permanent makeup tattoos that women get. They get the blush on their face or their eyeshadow or maybe their lips. I think that's what they're referring to. But this 46-year-old woman developed herpes in the genital area, even though she had a tattoo on her lips. This suggests tattooing triggered HSV reactivation. Mechanism. The study notes that tattooing, an aggressive procedure involving repeated skin punching with needles that cannot be fully sterilized, may lead to infections, including viral ones like herpes. The reaction is likely due to local trauma and stress in the skin, which can trigger latent HSV. And I'm guessing if they're not sterilizing these needles correctly, because it says needles that cannot be fully sterilized. That's interesting. So there's no full sterilization, so you can get transmission through this needle too. Anyway, complications. Tattooing can cause various complications, including bacterial, fungal, viral, as well as granulomatous, allergic, I don't know what that is, allergic react. It's not good, obviously. Lupus, psoriasis, lichen Bruber planus, hepatitis C, and HIV infections. Specific term. So tattooing can spread sexual transmitted disease, apparently, or can activate dormant STDs. If you have the HSV virus that's not active, can be activated by getting cosmetic tattoos in your face. Herpes methodology, case point study, brief limitation. Let's go to conclusions here. The study highlights tattooing as a potential trigger for HSV reactivation, as seen in a reported case of labial herpes following cosmetic lip tattooing. It underscores the risk of viral infections due to the invasive nature of tattooing and calls for awareness such as complications, particularly in cosmetic procedures. Further research needed. All right, well, there you go, guys. I mean, What do you want me to tell you? Honestly, nobody listens to me though. Honestly, people do what they're going to do. I can't tell you how many guys, I've talked to. They've been coaching clients. They've been a community member, a friend, maybe somebody that I've sat down and broken bread with. They've attended one of my events. And it's like they invite a tatted up single mom that was a former stripper into their life and they marry them. People are going to do what they're going to do. I'm going to keep warning you. And everything here is pretty fucking clear, guys. Self-esteem and body image is south when they have tattoos. There's a correlation. Sorry, it wasn't body image. It was just self-esteem. So self-esteem goes south when women have tattoos. Significantly lower self-esteem. So we have self-esteem. So that's number one. Let's just recap here. Impact of tattoos, body piercings, aesthetic, general sexual health of women. The other finding was that tattoos, body piercings, and genital plastic surgery can improve their perceived, in the mind's eye, attractiveness or sexual satisfaction, but have a complex and inconclusive relationship with risky behaviors. So one, we already covered one. Two, higher instances of risky sexual behaviors associated to tattooing. Like what? Banging the dude behind the dumpster at the nightclub at 3 o'clock in the morning with no condom. Okay. That would be an example of it. And then there was the numbness one, alexithymia in people with tattoos. So that's the third one. People that have tattoos basically are numb in life. There's a correlation between these two mechanisms for sure. The next one was association with childhood abuse. So where are we at? 3, 4? We're at 4 now. So there's a strong association with childhood abuse, neglect, and piercings. What was the other thing that they said popped up here? Emotional, physical, sexual abuse, emotional, and physical neglect. So these are all significantly higher in women that you meet that have tattoos. Okay, so let's keep going. So that's the fourth one. What's the fifth one? Perception, prevalence, and correlation of tattoos and tattoo regret. People don't perceive you or don't hold a higher opinion of you for your visible tattoos. In fact, they hold a lower opinion. As I stated, when I was doing hiring, I would often just pass over anybody with visible tattoos, neck tattoos, the women that had like tattoos on their hands and stuff like this, like the sleeve that kind of went all the way down to the hand. They couldn't cover it. The big rose, it's one of the things they were talking about. Like, what do they call it? Floral tattooing or planteous tattooing or something like that. Whatever it is, it's trash. And then the next one after that. So borderline personality association with body modifications and emotional regulation. So she's got tattoos. There's a strong correlation, or there's a strong association, especially in younger individuals, not so much in older ones, but in younger ones with BPD. I keep telling you guys to vet chicks for stuff like this, and nobody listens to me, man. Activation of herpes simplex infections after tattoos. STDs can be passed with a tattooing needle because they cannot be fully sterilized. That's quote unquote from the study. These needles cannot be fully sterilized is what they're saying. Or maybe it's the device or the inking device or something like that. Either way, there's clear evidence that HSV viruses are activated in that area from tattooing in this area, which is wild. Either way, I mean, what is the positive outcome that can come out of you going out and getting ink on your body? These are all studies that they did, with the exception of one, which included men. These are all mostly studies that they did with the association between tattooing and women. And like I said in my book, it's a red flag. Some guys might have a preference for it. I know when Moff first joined the program, the show, he was talking about tattoos, and he mentioned he had a strong preference for tattooed women, and that's changed since. But I think that some guys might want to get over that fetish. I don't know if it's a fetish, but might want to get over that preference if you want peace in your life, because it's very clear to me on this alone, on this one red flag, that you would not want to invite a chick with tattoos into your life on a permanent basis because she's going to bring more baggage than a chick without tattoos. BPD, potentially STDs, childhood trauma that's unresolved. You go right down the list. Go back and watch the whole video in detail. If you're just tuning in now, I'm not going to keep talking about it, but chicks without tattoos are better than chicks with tattoos. Bottom line. That's a TLDR if you're just tuning in now. That's it. Just stay away. The only acceptable tattoo, in my opinion, she gets your name tattooed on your body just to show the commitment. That's it. And it's private. It's not on her forehead or her shoulders, something like that. It's in a bikini line, bathing suit line, something like that. Just as an expression of her commitment for you. That's it. That's it. Nothing beyond that ever. I mean, I talked about the tattoo test in my book. You guys can go check it out, but we'll move on from here. Let me grab a call in. We got Kane over here. And if anybody else wants to call in, let me grab the link real quick. Copy, and call in and ask a Q. You can also super chat me if you want. I'll put it up on the screen and answer your question. But there's a link. Kane. All right, Kane, you're on. What's up, buddy? Can you hear me?
Hey, man. I can hear you. So just reading off your article, if you want to go ahead and get my thoughts on anything further, you're more than welcome to, 15, 20 minutes or just take my takes. But first, just reaction was the article or Grok said that it was a reactivation.
You're talking about the HSV part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that tells me it may not have been necessarily a tainted needle, but it's essentially, since it's a reactivation, it hasn't actually reduced down to a lower level of the epidermis. So it essentially is right underneath there, and just the fact of maybe like a quarter inch of a needle piercing that, it's essentially subsurface. Like they're really not in a state of dormancy to where
well, it
can't
states in the
transmit,
mechanism part, again, the study notes that tattooing, an aggressive procedure involving repeating skin puncturing with needles that cannot be fully sterilized, may lead to infections, including viral ones like HSV. So they're saying that the act of tattooing can lead to viral infections like herpes, or reactivation can be likely due to local trauma and inflammation, stress to the skin, which can trigger a latent, or I guess a dormant virus.
So that or part is what I'm picking up, is that it's actually the fact of the needle causing trauma to then cause the outburst.
Activate the virus. Yeah. So it could be one or the other. Why is that important?
With that, it tells you how sensitive that these cases of, you say, or not you, but society. I'll rephrase that. It says that HSV1 and HPV1 and 2 on both sides, how it can be cured, quote unquote. And it really can't. It's really there, subsurface, very close to you. And men don't realize they're taking that big of a risk, especially with women they're not taking serious who have these tattoos, right? It was probably the 2000s or 90s where we saw women just getting a half sleeve, and that was what was common. And then it became later 2010s approaching 2020 where we're now getting the new tramp stamp, which is the chest.
Yeah, the chandelier underneath the boob.
Well, it's anything. I started noticing it's really any type of chest rig going from underneath the breasts up into the center to
it's not a good look. I know that they think that it looks pretty and sensual, and maybe it I don't know, accentuates their lingerie or their boob job or whatever, but it's just any form of tattooing, in my opinion, is a red flag, and you shouldn't take any of these chicks serious on a permanent basis. Just short-term fun, use protection, whatever.
Now, to get into the mental health side of it, the BPD, and then also childhood unresolved trauma. Just in maybe the dating itself, maybe no childhood trauma, but just the fact alone of not having men choose you, that kind of puts you in as a woman, taking myself out of their shoes, because I'm quote unquote an attractive guy, and so I've I could see that in these women who have become on the internet through
Mhm.
2020. And I think that just the fact of being in that industry selling sex, that is a high correlation. Like there's not a chance that the chest rig up into getting your full neck tattoo doesn't correlate with stuff that you like to be done to you in the bedroom. A lot of those girls like that,
Yeah, I
if
mean,
you
they're
know
a lot
what I
more
mean.
freaky in the bedroom for sure. There's no question about it.
So is it linked to sexual dissatisfaction, which was the
Well,
first part?
no, actually, they were saying in one of the studies here that there's
They're
higher
more
levels.
numbed.
Well, there is numbing, it's associated, but there were higher levels of associated. Here, let me find it here real quick so I quote correctly. So there's childhood neglect study. There was one on piercing and tattooing with sexual satisfaction. That's a numbing one.
And then I have a golden nugget that's anecdotal for everybody.
Yeah, impact of tattoos, Buddy Pearson, on the sexual health of women and men. Okay, so on that one with sexual health, there's an association of positive influence in sexual satisfaction and perceived sexual attractiveness in women. So they enjoyed it more and they felt hotter with their piercings, their tattoos, and their genital plastic surgeries in that area.
I think it's on a scale of 1 to 10, but they all still have that trauma from
Oh
having
yeah, it's pretty clear
genital
there's a
stimulation.
trauma association with tattooing and childhood issues that are unresolved. There's no question about it.
So like it starts with that piercing to then getting into the surgery talk, right?
Yeah.
Getting your walls, right, re-sewed back in, or
Resewn,
the
lasering
other
down
one,
there, piercing of the clit. I don't
the
know what they
other one
call it
that's
when
big
they yeah,
is in LA. They're doing the, I'm not sure if you're, because I didn't hear you mention it, is they're doing the actual going under the needle and
mhm,
putting them under for redoing the walls.
to tighten things up.
No, like they literally will put new flesh.
Really?
It's a plastic surgery that they're calling the girls are calling getting a new vagina. It's
Okay,
like somewhere
and what's the
between
outcome?
10
Like,
and
what's the end
50.
result of that surgery?
They have There's a couple OF girls that have talked about it online. I don't know their names that have
Mhm.
gotten it, but from their
Like Bonnie
anecdotal
Blue or something like that?
experience.
Like, I guess after you go through it, 10,000 Ds, you gotta tighten things up or fix up the damage?
Right. So there's the lips, the labia
Mhm.
that'll tighten that up. Well, that's what you're talking about. But what
Right.
plastic surgeons are actually going in is I think I may be misquoting this. It's maybe like a 4 to 8 or 4 to 12 week healing time since the flesh has to bond to
So we're
the
talking about, like, putting new wallpaper on the walls. Is that what we're basically
inside,
saying?
yeah, all the way
Yeah.
up to cervix.
Wow.
So that's what these new girls are doing if they have
So,
15K.
all of that crap that you hear from women, like, "My past doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter if I've been with so many guys." Clearly, if they're having the surgery, they are acknowledging by the fact that things have been torn up inside that it does matter.
Yes,
Got
but
it. Okay.
in the last 5 years, they are listening to what men are saying online,
Mhm.
and they're starting to become smarter and not telling them exactly what procedures that they've
Mm.
had done. They will
Okay.
rephrase it as, I've gone through uh, pick me up stage or turned my life around, or I had
Just
an
working on
aha
myself.
moment,
Yeah.
an improvement era, where I just worked on myself era.
Mm.
And kind of the golden nugget here is what I've actually seen in the last two girls that I talked to is that they're actually getting these tattoo removal procedures done
Mhm.
without it being documented. And this is how is typically if you do that type of removal, it has to be by like a dermatologist or
Okay.
someone certified.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is if they have these girls that feel the shame, they're actually going to aestheticians, and then aestheticians are actually getting a quote unquote certification, not an actual license, to perform those procedures or to buy the machine for $5,000 or $10,000. And then they just claim that the girls are getting facials, but actually getting the procedure done and removing tattoos. So there's no actual paper trail.
Got it. So here's an interesting question from one of the viewers. She says, "Where's the donor flesh coming from?
They take
Is it like skin grafts?"
it's essentially like you know how you can go to the dentist and you can get skin grafts and
For
it's
your
not
gums.
actually your own skin. Yeah,
Okay.
they're doing that for your interior walls.
So I've had skin grafts done for my scars, right? Like you can see on my arm over here, I've got third-degree burns on both my arms and stuff like that. So that's grafted skin for my legs when I did that to myself when I was a
Mhm.
toddler. So I'm assuming they probably skin graft off the body somewhere and just put it inside.
I I've only heard of
Unless they
this.
grow it in a lab with like cloning or something like that.
I've only heard of this by like 2 or
Huh.
3 videos online of these OF girls doing it and actually getting the procedure after the
What's it
healing
called? Do you know what
stage.
the name of it's called?
N- no, because
Like the medical term?
it I was so appalled when I heard it
No
that
problem.
actually, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Somebody will probably drop it in like the live chat or in the comments after the show's done. But I'll take a look for it and I'll look it up and see what it's all about. But I mean, that's pretty extreme. That's almost as extreme as when you get guys that like break their legs because they don't think they're tall enough and they want to get like an extra 2 inches and they make the bone grow and they make them a little bit taller in the leg, sort of thing. It's very extreme surgery. It's too much in my opinion. I mean, like tattoos and piercings and all this body modification stuff. It just shows that you don't like yourself, is what it really boils down to.
With the amount of procedures
The amount of
being done.
procedures, the fact that you're getting these procedures, there's a strong association of childhood trauma and a vast like swath of other things that follow that as well that we just talked about. There's no positive upside. It's a huge red flag. Like any chick covered in tattoos, sleeve tattoos, exposed tattoos, the more and the frequency and the placement matter clearly. But it's a red flag. So just don't invite chaos in your life. It's like that's the advice that I can give you guys is don't invite that chaos in your life. Clearly there's a strong association here.
I would
Anyway,
concur. Yeah, and just I
you got
guess
anything else
it's
for me,
better.
Ken?
What else?
You got anything else for me?
Uh, with the whole esthetician removing tattoos, I guess I
Mhm.
would. That's my kind of golden nugget for you
Mhm.
guys, whoever listens to this,
Okay.
as well as I guess a dating question would have to be is, um, do you like take care of yourself or go to estheticians? Like, is skincare uh, important to you to take care of that
You're asking about
every
me
single
personally?
month? No, I'm just saying to gentlemen
Uh-huh.
listening about who's trying to identify women who have tattoos and
Mhm.
have gone through the removal process and then want to tell you, no, I've never had tattoos when they've removed them after.
Mhm. I mean, there's usually a little bit of a not a scar, but there's like a faint outline of it. They never really get rid of the whole thing, it seems. And I find most chicks that have had tattoos that have had them removed are pretty honest about it. Like, yeah, it was stupid. I wanted to get rid of them, not knowing the implications or any of these 7 studies that we just sort of went through over here that are going to associate
Hmm.
that and those choices and those behaviors with their childhood or STDs or self-image or any of those other things that we covered. So
I had
yeah,
a
there's
friend in
that.
the church, a guy friend, he had like a tennis ball size tattoo on his inner wrist.
Okay.
And his treatments were 7 to 9 treatments. They quoted him like
How much was that?
$150 each.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They add up, and apparently they're quite painful too.
Yeah. So if you're trying to identify that woman, even if she's trying to hide it, that's where I think is, I'm just
Well,
letting
I
you
think
guys
you can just
know.
ask them, like, "Hey, do you have any tattoos?" Well, yeah, but I had them all removed. They were a bad choice, sort of thing. They usually tell you. It's not like one of those things that they try to hide. It's not like an STD or like a notch count or something like that. Because I think for the most part, women don't really understand all these implications that we've just sort of covered here. So they'll more often than not, I find anyway, they'll just tell you. So you can just ask them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Cool.
all I got, unless you want me to react to anything.
No, it's cool, man. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate it. All right, so that's it. I think we've covered about an hour, so it's a pretty good chunk of time. My brothers, there's probably somebody out there that needs to see this. Might be contemplating inviting chaos into their life. They might have sniffed out some ideas that there might be problems associated with that gal that they're going to marry, make their girlfriend, the mother of their kids, covered in tattoos, piercings, body modifications, that kind of stuff. Show this to them. And again, if you want to use Grok or AI to summarize studies, I find it's very helpful, because I mean, some of these like reports and studies are like 40, 50 pages long, and they're all written by, super dorks that use language that you have to copy and paste over into Google, from time to time to translate. So summarizing any study, or if you come across a study that you think is relevant that you want me to share with the audience that watches this stuff, that's it, man. Like, the Unplugged Alpha is really about unplugging from the crap that's out there and filling you in on the truth, the cold hard truth, not the comforting lies. And this is a cold hard truth, guys. Tattoos are undesirable. There's no situation where I can think, with the exception of one, like I said earlier, if she adores you, admires you, wants to be in your frame, and is fully committed to you. The tattoo test, like I talked about in my book, is like a small test that's very, it's a very serious move. That would be it. But that should be the only one, not sleeves, roses, chandeliers under the boobs. The guy mentioned on the call, the old tramp stamp, which back in my day, and I'm assuming he's maybe close to the same age, was like on the lower back over here. And it was usually some kind of weird pattern. The tramp stamps today are now the chandeliers and like the dangly doohickey things that are all under their boobs and under the chest and stuff like that. And it's trash. It's trash. So stay away from women like that, and be very discerning in your taste. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching this episode, and we'll be back next Monday for Chopping It Up. So we'll catch you guys later. All right, guys, if you enjoyed that podcast, make sure you visit my website at richcooper.ca to learn more about my courses, my book, The Unplugged Alpha, community, or booking me for private coaching. Also, if you are a Canadian with $15,000 or more of credit card debt, and what you are doing right now isn't paying off the balances, then visit totaldebtfreedom.ca and hit Get a Free Quote to see if you qualify to settle your credit card debt for less than you owe today over the next 48 months. Make sure you check out the top pinned comment on YouTube for all the links mentioned during the show. Peace.